I mean, you could be hurt, you can cry, you can weep, you could spend 6 months weeping and fasting and feeling like you're going to die. But if you'll follow the Lord and you'll stay in love, He will promote you each time.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Iris Global Green Room. Today, I always give you good guests. Always. But I don't just have a good guest. I have an incredible guest. Someone very near and dear. Why are you laughing at me? This is true. Let me introduce you.
It's the joy of the Lord. That's
Pastor
all.
Charles. Pastor Charles Stock and his wife Ann have pastored Life Center Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, forever.
Yeah, like 36, 37 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was introduced to Pastor Charles as a young intern with Randy.
Yeah.
And my life has changed forever because of this man, your team. The impact that you have had on my life is incredible. And I love you. I love your church. I love Harrisburg. I just love what God is doing through you. I've watched Life Center grow. How many are you running right now?
Occasionally 2,000, usually 1,600, 1,500 in that neighborhood.
Yeah, and so, when I first came,
once in a while we almost had 3,000, or maybe we had 3,003 or something last Easter. That's wild, but that's not our plan. You know, I mean, our plan is just worship God.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you're one of the few churches that I think has done the Spirit-filled, charismatic, and the local church beautifully, and a lot of people don't. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
But Charles and Ann and the Leach family, and I got married at your church. I had so many encounters with the Lord in your church, and still continue to this day. If you guys have enjoyed watching my journey, you get to thank Pastor Charles and Ann and that church for a massive chunk of that. And so Pastor Charles Stock.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah.
I hope I can live up to your introduction. It was great. And let's see, I'm not sure. Oh, which one I'm supposed to look at?
You can look at me.
Two. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, but I watched you. You were watching.
Yeah, I was saying
one.
Hi to people. Hey.
Hi.
Yeah.
It's good to see everybody.
Tell
we love Iris.
Yeah.
You know, our lives changed because of Iris. And since this is an Iris family talk here, right? So
I actually met Heidi at Life Center.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Well, Ann and I met Heidi and I don't think Roland was there, but 1999, Randy Clark invited us to his first ever Voice of the Apostles conference. It was in St. Louis.
Yeah.
It was very funny. We arrived and there were no instructions where the conference was or anything. So I was going to speak, but it was the next day. But we got there early, and we got a taxi driver and described what we were looking for. And he said, "I think I might know where that is." And he took us to the church where it was. Wow. So we arrived. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon, which is not a hot time in most conferences.
Right.
And we go into this church. I think it was an Assembly of God church, but you know, it's a sanctuary, maybe seated 300-400 people max, pews. And we opened the door, and Heidi was on this stage, and there were a group of primarily pastors that were lying like on the steps. It wasn't a real high stage, and it had these kind of steps all around it. So they were kind of laying with their heads on the stage and in various states of being undone. And Heidi has her hand up. She's looking in the air, and she says, "Kill him, God. Just kill him. Kill him."
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember. But what I remember was when we opened the door, the dimension of spiritual significance that we felt. And I said, and I've read about people like this,
Yeah.
because we brought our kids up on missionary stories. Amy Carmichael
Yeah.
popped into my mind. I said, but I've never been in a room with one. And I just recognized something being transacted there in the spiritual realm. You know,
Yeah.
like you could get hung up on the particular style, but that wasn't it. It was,
Yeah.
you know, so little did I know that, you know, we would end up spending a lot of significant time with Iris.
Yeah.
Now here you are.
You've been out to
We
Mozambique.
met you through Captain Bob,
Yeah.
through Randy,
Yeah.
through, you loved going to Mozambique.
Your church has been a hub of the move of God on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Ever since, I mean, it was started. All I know, I think when I met you, you were moving into your new building.
Yeah. It's probably 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when.
Yeah.
when
I was there with Bill and Randy.
Yeah.
and-
Global the Clarks moved to Harrisburg in 2001. So
Yeah.
might have been that year.
It was that year. I think
You
Randy,
were part of the initial three, right? Or-
yeah, me, Jamie Galway, and Brandon
and
Sundberg.
Brandon.
I wanted to pick your brain on a few things.
Okay.
And then you could, of course, you could do whatever you want, say whatever you want.
Okay.
But I felt, number one, I wanted to ask you a couple specific questions about the Spirit-filled Church
Okay.
and where it's at. Because, and you've been there, you've
Yeah.
done it, you've seen
Yep.
it, you've pastored it and stewarded it in Harrisburg, in your church. But you're also this pastor that goes out and does other things as well. So you travel and speak and you write books. But there has been a lot of man, I don't want to say pushback, but there's just a lot of, I think, people disenfranchised with the Spirit-filled church. Some of the controversies, some of the abuse that's taken place. How have you? Like, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on it, if that's okay.
Okay. And you can steer me where you want that to go. One is, I would just say our motive for Ann and me, our motive was always to know God.
Yeah.
We have a motto that says experiencing the love of God and giving it away, which isn't a full sentence. It's like a phrase or a clause, but it's all action stuff. And so we got converted by, particularly me in particular, by encountering the manifested presence of God in worship, in a Jesus people meeting, and it pierced through all my Eastern religion, intellectual snobbery, everything else, and so that's what we've always followed. I never aspired to be a pastor. It wasn't like my goal. I wanted to know Jesus. I didn't want to be a pastor. And I'm honored that, what God chose for us, but it's never been my identity.
Yeah.
So that helps keep you from being frustrated, jealous, threatened, all those things. If people used to, and God set me, like when we came to Harrisburg, and then we ended up attending this church with a young leader who hired me because he and the leaders thought I was the answer. I was the manifestation of a prophecy the church had received in May. We moved from California to Pennsylvania, had no idea why. In October, by the next spring, I preached in that church once, and then he shared this with me. So he hired me based on this word that they had gotten. A few months later, he left the church in a bad way, really damaged his life, and the church was traumatized. And I remember I was it was in a warehouse in the hood, and a bodega in the barrio for the Spanish speakers. But I was, walking around praying, and I said, God, we'll stay here and help them till they find a new pastor. And then I was thinking, then we'll just trust you, if you want us to move back west or whatever. And the Lord spoke to me. It was a clear word. He said, I have set you here, which wasn't my language. That's why you can recognize a clear word from the Lord, because it's different than your own thoughts. I have set you here. And I had heard the people actually in that church use that term. They would talk about the set man based on Moses and the King James translation, and so when he used that term set, I thought, ooh. And I said, well, God, I'm going to tell Ann, but I'm not going to tell anybody. If this is you, then it'll manifest. And it did. Within a month, they invited me to be the interim pastor, and then another month they made me the pastor.
Wow.
In early 1989, and I'm still there. And the reason I stayed is because he set me. And after 3 years, I figured I had fixed the church enough, like trained some leaders, got them patched up from the trauma. And I had two friends, one in Austin, one lived in Harlingen in the Rio Grande Valley near McAllen. And they were both doing Latin American missions, which I had a love for.
Yeah.
And
Still
they both were inviting us to, why don't you come join us? So I'm laying in this hotel in San Antonio at night, Ann's asleep, and I'm saying, God, should we go to Austin? It's so cool, fun, and the church was very cutting edge for the, about, this is probably 1992 or something, and I said, but man, McAllen, just drive right across the border.
Yeah.
And the Lord spoke to me clearly and said, I've called you to Harrisburg. And I started crying. This was silent. This is a silent prayer. Ann's asleep. I'm on my back. And I'm excited thinking about which part of Texas I'm going to live in. Right. And because Texans are a lot like Californians, except Texans work harder. Sorry, all you Californians that I didn't. But I grew up in California, so everybody in California, they love new ideas. And they go, wow, that's cool. In Texas, when you have a new idea, they say, well, let's do it. That was my observation of the cultural difference. And none of those are absolutes.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
Absolutely no.
But so he said, I've called you Harrisburg. I started crying. And I'm thinking man. And I said, well, we don't like Harrisburg, and they don't like us, which we were a massive culture shift for this group that started with us.
Yeah.
A lot of them left. Our first church plant was a sanitized church split so that they could pursue what was in their heart, and then the glory came, after that. It's really interesting that it just, joy, unity, all that stuff, people started building. And I just didn't worry about what I would preach. The group that left, if I didn't preach what they believed, they would come and pound on my desk and let me know. And anyway, so it started attracting who we were. So the Lord says to me, what happened to all your vision? And I thought, I don't know. But when he said it, I remembered the first 3 weeks after the pastor left and everybody's had a bomb dropped on their life, basically, this man they trusted, which you brought up, like failure in the church.
Yeah.
And he's still my friend, this guy. I mean, it took him a few years to get everything back, but I honor him. I'm not dishonoring him at all, but it's something that happened.
It's part of the story.
And, eventually he was restored to ministry, and but at that point in it, when the Lord said, "What happened to your vision?" I remembered like the first 3 Sundays I spoke after the bomb dropped, and he left his family.
When the bomb dropped, some news came out.
Well,
there was something.
He left with the church secretary.
Okay,
and they were both married.
Okay,
before.
Yep.
And they both had children.
So you walked into a chaotic situation.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know it was chaotic when I walked into it, but after being there for a few months, I drop into this. And that's when the Lord said, when I said, I'll stay here till they find a new pastor, and, which I figured would be from Oklahoma or Texas, because they were in that stream. And the Lord said, I set you here. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, like this would start a war and I didn't want to be set there. You know, this church was in the hood. I grew up in a resort town.
Is that the coffin factory?
The coffin. It was a warehouse.
Coffin warehouse,
Yeah, that's where it was. And it was big and ugly, and cars got stolen sometimes. But
it's okay.
Yeah, and off-duty policemen got saved. We'd hire them to make sure that the people were not getting robbed while they were at church.
So that's a blessing.
Yeah. And so back to this encounter in San Antonio, when he says it, the first 3 Sundays, so I'm thinking of like, okay, what can I preach that's going to help people feel better?
Yeah.
And my prayer when I was in that prayer, I said, God, my prayer is that none of the children in this church would have their hearts hardened by what just happened.
Yeah.
And that, and amazing, because some of those children are now leading Life Center.
Wow.
You know, but so that I would get this message and I would start to preach it, and I would get overtaken with almost a vision that I could almost see. I couldn't see it, but by the end, I would be saying, you know, there's going to be a youth revival here, and we're going to see so many young people in this church that you wouldn't recognize it, and we're going to be training them and sending them out. And it wasn't like Lauren Cunningham seeing waves and waves of kids, but it was kind of like that. Like we got saved in the Jesus movement.
Yeah.
I could see that's what I was seeing. And my mind was thinking like, are you kidding? You know, like this was a church where even on Wednesday night, people wore high heels and suits. And, you know, it was just it wasn't California culture there. And so after all these years, you know, we have much closer to that kind of culture, and it all happened. I mean, it's happening now. It's continuing to happen. You know, our children's ministry for the last 2 or 3 summers, they take a team of about 20 people to Kona every year when they have this YWAM World. They gather in all their leaders, and we do what we've been doing in Harrisburg for 25 years with Pastor Travis and
what a gem.
His team, and they do it in Kona. Yeah. And for all the missionary kids. And
Travis is incredible.
Yeah. So when the Lord said, what happened to your vision, that's what popped into my mind. This thing that I was seeing, and I would get really energized. People would be on their feet shouting and stuff, and because I was declaring something. And when he asked me that, I thought, I don't know. I had no answer for his question. So there's a little pause, and the Lord says to me, you've been listening to the critics. End of conversation.
Wow.
The Lord speaks to me in very short phrases usually. Not all the time, but most of my significant, clear words have been very, very brief.
Right.
It's probably, if you have ADD, you need like short, clear communication. And so
I wouldn't know what you're talking about, Charlie.
You wouldn't,
I have
would
no
you?
idea.
I'll try to make it shorter.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But he said, "You've been listening to the critics." End of conversation. I mean, tears are dripping into my ears because I really wanted to move to Texas, and not go back and face the dynamics there. And I'm so glad I did. So I told Ann in the morning, and she said, "Oh, I didn't think we should move to Texas," because our wives, usually they know.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, rats. So on the flight back from San Antonio, I made a resolution. I said, "Ann, I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm not going to worry about whether the people there stay with us. I'm just going to preach Jesus. I'm just going to talk like I was talking to my friends in California." And so I did. And it began to attract the right people and some of those original people that it really wasn't their DNA.
Yeah.
They ended up forming a church, which we blessed them and sent them. And that's why I say it was a sanitized church split, because we caught wind of it, and instead of like chopping them up or criticizing them, we said, "Look, we want to bless you. We don't want you to go out sad.
Yeah.
We want you to go out blessed." And so that happened. And after that, the church, it just got more and more oily and more presence-based, and the people, a lot of creative, interesting, wild people came. All the people with shofars, matas, buffalo drums, they all came before Toronto. And then when Toronto hit, oh my gosh.
Just a landslide.
We went to Toronto in September 94, and when we came back, we got stressed out on the way back, wondering how we were going to introduce this. And, we thought maybe we'll send all our leaders up and see what they think and blah, blah, blah. Well, God short-circuited the process.
Yeah.
The first Sunday we came back, I was preaching on something entirely different, but I gave an altar call, said, "If anyone's thirsty, why don't you come up?" I said, "Because the church has been dry. People, we get dry. Like, if you know you're dry, Jesus said, 'Come to me and drink.'"
Yeah.
And so usually we would have altar invitations, and the same 20 people would come up, and sometimes they'd fall down, but it was just almost like part of the culture of the church to do an invitation at the end. And some of the same people would rededicate their lives to Jesus, come up for prayer for different things. And it wasn't bad. I don't want to mock it, but it was nothing exceptional. That Sunday, maybe there were 300, maybe 350 people in the room, and about 150 people came forward. And since we had been to Toronto, we had this model for it, so we lined them all up in a straight line from wall to wall.
Wow.
Were you ever in that old?
Not in the coffin place.
But
I was there right when you moved into
they
the new
were
building.
wall to wall, and Ann and I started in the middle, and we went in opposite directions and started praying. And Ann, when we went to Toronto, Ann only got one prayer. It was from John and Carol's, one of their granddaughters, and she just had one word for Ann: more.
Yeah.
And Ann thought, that's it, But when she came back, she knew how to pray. She just said, more. And first person starts crying, and we were both experiencing this, but the next person starts laughing.
Yeah.
The next person starts crunching. The next person's pogoing and spinning around, and people are flopping, and we did have catchers, because it was kind of had this Pentecostal background where people would fall down. So there were catchers, and we were there for a couple hours.
Wow.
So
Sunday morning
solved the problem, like how we were going to introduce it.
You mentioned, you said you're listening to the critics. You said the Lord
that's
said
what
that
the
to you.
Lord said. You're listening to the critics.
What were the critics?
Oh, thank you.
What were the critics?
I'm so glad you. Yeah. So when he said you're listening to the critics, I realized, this was an unhealthy expression of the word of faith. I respect the word of faith movement,
Yeah.
but for some reason it was taught in this extreme selectivity, I would call it. So I could preach on Psalm 23, and if I spent any time on walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I had a woman in my office after I preached on Psalm 23. Can there be anything more universal
Right.
to the teaching the kingdom of God and the whole trajectory than that? And she was pounding on my desk saying, I don't have to go through anything. Jesus did all my suffering for me.
Yeah.
And I had other people, that would come and say, we don't like what you're teaching, Pastor. And I'd say, well, what is it? They said, well, we don't like, you talk about suffering. The reason I talked about suffering is we almost died, in our transition from California to Pennsylvania, and it was sovereign. I mean, we almost died to get us to leave. And then when we got to Harrisburg, we almost died a second time. And so I had this whole experiential, and I had been taught this, as I didn't have that background. And so I would just preach stuff that I think is fundamental. If we suffer with him, we'll be glorified with him.
Yeah.
And the secret is with him.
Yeah.
It's not if we suffer, we'll be glorified.
Right.
If it's we suffer with him, which means I'm not separating God out of my suffering as if I'm being punished. I'm walking through it with him.
Right.
As Paul writes about, I fill up in my body what is lacking in the suffering of Christ. And he's not saying I'm part of the redemption. He's saying I'm living out in this broken world the suffering that's involved in advancing that Christ would be glorified in all the earth. That's not an academic exposition on it, but that's an application. And so it's interesting, Psalm 23 starts out all the thing God does for us. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. That's awesome. And he makes me lie down. He restores my soul. And then I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and now I'm being delivered from fear because he's with me. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff. I know it in King James. That he becomes now not someone who's doing something for me, but someone who's walking with me.
Wow.
And he's giving me his authority and his guidance, however you want to allegorize staff and rod. And then you get into a different place where now God is the maitre d' and you're the guest of honor.
Wow.
He spreads a table before me in the presence of my enemy. He anoints my head with oil. My cup runs over. And it's like the shift comes in the valley of the shadow of death, where we walk with him through what should kill us, and it doesn't, because he's with us. And it changes the dynamics of our relationship. I mean, Psalm 1, verse 1, Spanish, Jehová es mi pastor, nada me faltará. There will be nothing lacking, which is the Hebrew. There is no lack. Yahweh, Ra'ah, or something. It's Hebrew's amazingly efficient.
It is.
Just a couple of words take a whole sentence in English. But so because the one who will be what he will be is my shepherd, there's no lack. He will always manifest provision as when he's my shepherd and I'm following him. I'm in the place where the provision will manifest. I can't go do my own thing.
as a leader, though, and you are a leader, Life Center is.
Am I going on too many rabbit trails?
No, you're fine. Okay. Listen, I have no agenda, but I do have a couple of things that I really wanted to parse out of you, Charles.
Okay.
Because you've done it well. You and Ann and John and your team has done it well. I've seen the move of the Spirit come to a lot of churches, and it gets mishandled. I see power struggles. We see people emphasizing something that shouldn't be the emphasis, and they lean into that. You see people either getting highly politicized or highly, we see a lot. And I think my generation and below, right? They're at least a lot of the conversations that I'm having they're questioning this move, and you've pastored it well. Like I know that if I go to Life Center, I'm going to get the Word and the Spirit, and worship, real worship. Yeah. As well, you said it, like you're listening to the critics. There's because of, I think, a lot of the chaos that now is more open to the public. A lot of the things that would just kind of fly under the radar, which is awful in some situations. Now everything's posted. Anybody's saying anything. I know that you guys, I don't know of any like in particular, but you must have faced a lot of criticism, and the Lord said you're listening to critics. You're not supposed to. How do we navigate this as a church, as a Spirit-filled church?
Well, that's a very interesting. What I did initially was what I said to Ann on the phone, like on the plane back to Pennsylvania from Texas. I just said, I'm just going to preach like I'm preaching to my friends.
Wow.
I'm not going to worry about anybody's opinion. I'm just going to preach Jesus, preach the kingdom of God, preach the grace of God, whatever. I mean, and that has so many applications, and it activated people. It really activated people, and they began without ever pushing people to be activists. They became a very active, they just did stuff. I think right now, John told me this, and I haven't counted, but he said he thinks there's like 30 different like not-for-profit ministries that call Life Center their home. Yeah. And we've never tried to control it or brand it. And I love it. Yeah. Because it's God's, it's not mine. And so I think that helped us steer clear. I'm glad we didn't have 20,000 members or something like that. Yeah. And we weren't highly controversial. We could have been if we were bigger, or if we were trying to deliberately make a bigger footprint, maybe that would have come. Because we've always just tried to follow the Spirit. And I think because I never wanted to be a pastor, and I know God set me, I never had a fear that someone could take it from me. Mm-hmm. And I would have people come to me, and you're very kind, and you say I'm a great pastor. But I had people, especially in those early years, I'd have people come, they'd be mad at me, and they say, "You're no pastor," and I go, "I agree completely. Like I didn't want to be a pastor. God gave, He put me here. I'm on my assignment, so." If He changes my assignment, I'll be really happy. Yeah. But I was never threatened by that. Wow. I would feel challenged by feeling like, God, are we reaching what You've called us to? Or am I too lazy? Am I not driven enough? And if you have a lot of friends that are like, definitely 10 talent people that figure out how many hours a day they need to sleep, so that means they can work 18 hours every day.
I know those people.
Yes, I know you do. Yeah. Then, you can feel kind of inadequate, but what came out of it is a really healthy culture. Yeah. Where many people come who've worked with big ministries or worked with and they feel it's strange because we've never tried to organize it so that we were accessible, but they feel there's an accessibility and a transparency in how we communicate.
Yeah.
We don't have like a code language where we're putting people under pressure, making it sound good. But
What do you mean by code language? Give me an example.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me like when you are in a highly religious system, because we're handling the grace of God and we're participating in the kingdom of God, you can cloak personal ambition in some pretty lofty sounding language where people will agree with the language, but the fruit of it is they're under pressure to perform.
Wow.
Like, and
can you give me an example? Because I know what you're trying to describe.
I don't want to dishonor anyone, but one time Ann and I we were on a vacation and we visited this really big church because a famous friend of ours, who you would know, said, you should go visit this church. You could preach there, mm-hmm. and we were on a vacation. And so I thought, well, I'll go preach there. And I mean, we'll go visit there sometime, but we actually found this little group that was meeting on the beach, and that's where we were on vacation. We would go there for our like Sunday morning. So we went and visited this big mega church, and when I walked in, I could see all the staff. Everyone was nervous.
Yes.
All the like associate guys.
Yeah.
They were all nervous. I don't know how you sense this about people, but I could feel like their internal world was unhealthy.
I know exactly.
And no one cared because the main thing was just to get the job done. And keep promoting the pastor and how great he is. And so this pastor flew in from somewhere, told everybody all about it, preached, and then he had to get on a plane and go to their next a campus that they had planted, and so he was larger than life, and in order, and God forgive me because I don't have that's why I don't want to name him. I hope I'm being vague enough that nobody could ever guess, but I just thought like he's larger than life and all the people that work for him are smaller than life.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't seem right.
No.
So I just feel like one of the things that we've been able to steward by just pursuing the presence of God and not having a lot of ambition beyond that is that it gives room for people to thrive.
Yeah.
Like they're thriving and families are thriving. And I've always been stricken at how young our congregation is.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 75 in October, and I look at the church and I think like, golly, this is like, this wrecks all the statisticians, all the Barna reports on the age of the, and I think it's just, there's life there.
Yeah.
There's life in experiencing the love of God and giving it away. And if that is your main ambition, bigger than, how much merch you sell or how many places you're invited. And I have no judgment against any. I have so many friends that are awesome that the world's changed by the books they've written and the media they've produced and all that. But we haven't done a lot of that, but we've lived and loved well, and it'll go on and on for generations, so, I believe.
Here's a question.
Okay.
Because you have always...
You could edit any of this.
No, I love this. You've always had... first of all, one of the things I noticed about your church is you've had staff for 30 years.
Years and years and
the
years.
Same people.
Right.
How do you... When there is that changing of the guard, that changing of seasons, and I do want to get into that in just a minute.
Okay.
And you have a bunch of people. We're fine. There's you have a bunch of people that are coming on, new people coming, younger generations. Like, we need to do this. We need to do this. We need to go big. We need to do this. Like, how do you honor them
Well,
How do you test any of that out?
Yeah. I think we try to let them. I try really hard not to clip wings if I can avoid it. We try to encourage them.
Yeah.
And we give them enough space to be creative in their own space without changing the direction, the heartbeat. And most of the ones that stay and are excited, they love the heartbeat.
Yeah.
They love the core of the culture. Yeah. And so they, there's a wholeness that they experience.
Yeah.
Some of our most talented staff, especially our talented younger staff, are people that some of them have worked for really big ministries and they got hurt and burned out, so they had their own private businesses doing what they do, and they moved and said, if you guys want to, we would like to be on staff, be full time. If you let us, maybe we can keep a few weekends free for some of our high paying weekend jobs and stuff. So I like that. I don't like people that are stuck. But that's an honor. And so we've been able to attract amazing talent.
Yeah.
And they come joyfully. And Harrisburg, unlike Nashville, doesn't have a natural magnetic thing about talent, but it could get there.
There's a lot of talent there.
Oh my gosh.
There is a lot of humility in Pennsylvania. I think it's some of that Pennsylvania Dutch. You got a little bit of that Amish Mennonite culture. But the people are incredible.
They are.
Very family
amazing.
Family oriented.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have a time, I have so many questions. Did you ever have a time where your culture, you felt a pressure to shift your culture and everybody was like, shift, and you're going along with it, and then all of a sudden you're just like, no, we're staying on the same course. Have you ever felt that pressure to make that change?
Yeah, probably, especially in the early years. I think the last 10 or 20 years, I would feel that pressure from maybe one or two people, but I just said, no, we're going to be who we are.
Yeah.
Some people got enamored with, Hillsong was doing great things in New York City for a while. And anyway, I don't want to name names that you have to edit out, but some of the young theologians and stuff really, some of our people would get enamored and say, maybe we should be more like
this,
this or that. And I thought, nah. One time I came in to church before service and they were playing pop music over, we've got this amazing sound system, and they're playing pop music. It's not bad music. It wasn't
non-Christian secular music.
Right. Yeah. Just secular music. And that's what Hillsong New York City did. And somehow it
filtered in.
Yeah. It got, hey, let's try this and stuff. And I walked in and I said, guys, this is a house of worship.
Yeah.
This isn't, and I didn't have any judgment against Hillsong doing that. They were meeting in secular venues.
Yeah.
And so they were just creating a comfortable environment, and then they would bring the worship, blah, blah, blah.
Very evangelistic.
But I said, this is a house of his presence.
Yeah.
He's not drawn to this music, but he's enthroned when we worship him. And so those were gentle. They weren't major confrontations. Early on, probably in the early 90s, I spent 2 years preparing the church to become a cell-based church. We studied Ralph Neighbors. We went through the years of training, and we did the first we had 50 cell leaders prepared who had all been celled, and we were all full on in this. Yeah. And then we went to Toronto.
Gosh.
And when we came back, Toronto came. And we shifted our paradigm, and it made some people mad.
Yeah.
Some people left. And I said, guys, we can't pull this off. We don't have enough bandwidth to transform at this point into a cell-based church and host the Holy Spirit. Like, if the Holy Spirit didn't show up on that Sunday, we would have probably just done the cell-based thing, which was probably a little, I was always in small groups from whenever I was a young Christian. I was discipled in small groups, but the whole cell-based thing takes a special grace.
It's
By
an
the
army.
way,
You need an
Paul
army.
Martini and his team in
Yeah.
Albuquerque are phenomenal
Yeah.
on this. But at that point, and it was a different model, it was highly structured and highly administrative to keep it all
Yeah.
rolling. And so we had hired a guy, this Scottish guy who was really a brilliant speaker, and he was my friend. And some people left because of that, but I just recognized when we went to Toronto, and in the months that followed, it's like, this is why we got saved.
Right.
For me, what brought me out of darkness into light was the experience of his manifested presence
Yeah.
in a meeting.
Yeah.
And
Gosh.
and so
It was
that
me
was
too.
that was a big turn that
Yeah.
we made to stay on course.
Yeah.
Because I think we were getting, you're in the desert,
Yeah.
and out in the desert you might take a box canyon.
Let me just explain.
Okay.
So, because what I've realized is there's a lot of people that watch, they don't know what Toronto is. There's a younger generation,
know.
as well as, and so I think most people do that watch this, but the cell concept was a church multiplication discipleship based around cell groups,
Right.
really the model of Jesus, 12 disciples, and then those have groups. It's a pyramid scheme, but it's not. It's a net to
multiplication.
catch, harvest, and multiply. I worked at a church in Paraguay that they grew to 30,000, 25,000
Wow.
people with a cell model. But so there's nothing wrong with it. I think there's lots of models. But
Yep.
what I hear you saying is we always stayed to our core, our DNA, which was his presence.
Yeah.
I want to, oh gosh. Okay. I got to get to a couple other questions. If
quick.
this is okay.
No, I'm going to, and I'll try to give short
You're
answers.
fine. No, I don't mind. There's a couple things I want this.
Yeah.
I want this.
Okay.
I don't get to sit under you
I-
on Sundays anymore. So
oh.
this is all for me, and you guys can enjoy. There's so many things I want to ask you. Here we go. So you said you're 75. You're about
In
to,
October.
In
Yeah.
October.
Yeah.
And you guys have just recently made a massive transition. And you've been chatting with me when we see each other for a couple of years.
About this.
There is, I know there's a lot of people watching that are sitting in churches or have been impacted by churches from people that came out of the Jesus movement. This is happening really across America right now. It really is.
I know. The boomers are departing.
Can we, I would love to talk about this from your side of the table,
Okay.
not just from who's stepping in. Because I think a lot of times that conversation is, we all know that we need to raise up and pass things on, but the ones that gets passed on to, and I'm at the receiving end of this in Iris.
Yeah.
I have no idea the price. I have no idea the cost that was paid. I know the stories. I can tell people the stories, but I haven't experienced it myself. On your side, what was it like feeling that pressure? Was it pressure to raise someone up? How did you know? What were you looking like? Navigate. What was it like as a founder
Okay.
to navigate this?
And I might be unique because probably shortly after we got in the property, like probably by 2010, I was looking for a successor. And my initial model, I didn't understand it. Like I needed a lot of education. my initial, and I used to say, I'd rather have a revivalist who blows it up than an administrator who
Right.
just grows a nice big do-nothing church, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so much other than those two extremes, but that's what I was looking for. So my first runs were just simply to identify someone who I thought could be my successor and bring them in. And God short-circuited mercifully my first choice, who was amazing, but so far doesn't look, he didn't end well. And he's still at an age where he could be my successor, but I had identified him, you know.
Years ago.
Yeah, by 2006.
So why though? Why did you, I
Why?
don't want to interrupt, but why did you feel the need 15 years ago
Well, because I knew,
or 20 years ago?
I just knew I wouldn't be there forever.
Okay.
And at that point, I didn't see anyone in our local body that I thought, oh, that person could do it.
Yeah, but you're
Or-
55 at the time.
Yeah.
So you still have a lot of life.
56, 7.
Yeah, you still have a lot of life. Like, why did you feel this pressure?
Well, I just felt like it would make me more free if there was a younger revivalist there and we could kind of switch off. Because when I was younger, I really enjoyed traveling. It was a big adventure to me. And now that I'm older, I really like being at home. And I pick and choose where I want to travel because I recognize the price. And at that time, Anne didn't mind me traveling because she had kids and, you know, we both had kids, but she was very involved with being a great mom and had connections in the community. And as we're aging together, we really like being together. Yeah. So, it changed, but so all my early attempts short-circuited. There were probably just a couple, but they were the first one was pretty serious in my mind, and God clearly showed me it would be a mistake, and then it turned out it would have been a big mistake. Okay. So you can't always predict
right.
where people will be in 10 years. So
you can't, Charles? No, I'm just kidding.
So far, I've been pretty bad at it. But so then I just, maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I'd regularly talk with the older team who are now in their 60s, and I would say, guys, we're one health crisis away from make it being clear that we didn't do our homework here. We need to, we have to work on this. And I was the oldest of the core team, you know, so it was more urgent to me than to them. And so we started about 5 years ago, a process of being serious, because now 5 years ago I was 70. So, and 3 or 4 years ago, we've ended up with some great people that are consultants that worked with us, were recommended to me by a dear friend, Larry Kreider, who was one of the first guys I met when I moved to Pennsylvania, planted churches all over the world. And his recommendation was good. It was a good fit. So we started on this thing. Part of it was for our older team, and it was probably more real to Ann and me than to the younger two, like imagining what will we do beyond this season.
Right.
And so that was really important, because you'll never leave where you are if you don't have a vision, unless God just speaks to you. Like he spoke to us in California about Pennsylvania. We had no vision, but we heard it was a clear voice, so we came to Pennsylvania. And I know, but most people aren't going to leave something that they know how to do to step into something. Right. So unless you've developed something they want to do, which a lot of people that happens. But for us, it's been more like we recognize our age, and I don't want to be led off the stage because I can't remember which direction the exit is. That was kind of this mental image I was getting of myself.
Had you seen that in other leaders? Like, is this something that you witnessed?
I haven't seen it in too many church leaders, but I could imagine it becoming the case And I have seen people who were brilliant leaders when they were younger. They would not, in their afterglow years, they're no longer like an organizational leader. I mean, they have riches to share, but they're not, they're not putting in the continual focus and kind of monomania that is on someone who's really a visionary organizational leader, because they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's their calling. And I recognize that there were things that I would do better if there was a way to do that. And so we a little bit we tugged everybody into this process, and for the most part everybody's really grateful for the process. And for us, we're thrilled that we went through the process, because the process got us. I don't know if I'm answering your question, because you wanted to know what would motivate us.
I wanted
to move into this.
Listen,
the inevitable is what motivated us.
But I also want to know as a founder, as someone who built this, as someone who has blood, sweat, and tears. And I know when I say this, you have an entire team that is gold. Your team is gold. So I know this isn't just a you thing.
Right.
However,
right.
You're the head pastor.
Right.
You and John and the team and you're incredible. You built this thing and passing it off to someone, it's like giving away your baby. It's like it's a big deal. And
it is a very big deal.
You have this congregation of thousands of people that have been fed for years. You've walked through deaths and children and marriages and the worst with people. And so, and you know them, you know their hearts. Like you guys are pastors. Like you're not just speakers. You're not. You're in the lives of people. You're there. I've watched you. Heck, you came to my wedding in your church. Like you didn't need to, like you were involved. So we're not just talking about passing off a C Corp, right? A corporation to the next CEO. We're talking about passing off.
It's a family.
A love. Yeah, a family.
A love. Well,
and I want to, like, what's going on inside of you as people are like, hey, we need to plan this. You need to plan this. What was that like in your shoes?
I've always liked the unknown, and I thrive on change, which is so ironic that God kept me in one place for 37 years. So maybe that was part of why I was looking for a replacement early on, because I thought then I can go do what I really want to do. And it's true, it's part of my temperament. So there's part of me that some leaders might not have. I've watched a lot of guys who've done it well. They usually move into something that's of a wider scope, but they usually do it younger. To move, when there's a lot of. John Maxwell was a pastor in San Diego for years and years before he became, a guru on leadership and working with government leaders. Jim Garlow. I mean, I can think of all these examples of people who founded or led significant churches and then transitioned out earlier into something that's more their dream. Yeah. My dream is almost like a mystical dream. It's like it's a life of joy and fruitfulness with Jesus. It's not organizational. It has to do with, I showed you the picture. I've met with presidents.
And can we mention the name?
Go ahead.
You were just with President Bukele?
President Bukele. That was the second time. And I like that, but it doesn't, I like that. I'm slightly in awe that they want me to speak to them, and that they find it fruitful. And so, but that's not my goal. My goal is just hear and obey, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple. And so I'm looking now. So it's bittersweet, you know. It's awesome and scary. It's like, what'll be next, you know? And so I've tried to walk through this with Anne, and there were a few times where I was ready to go, and she was saying, "Well, I'm not ready to go." Now she's way ready to go, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, I told you the story that we've gone through this whole process, and it was done very professionally with assessments, and it resulted in some very intentional leadership development of our younger leaders
Mm-hmm.
who are the same age we were when we started,
And they're the cream of the
nothing.
crop. They're incredible.
Yeah, and so once we completed that process, they had to make a choice, you know, and several, we invited people to apply. And I called around like our spiritual friends, you know, asking, do you know anyone that you think would be a good fit? Because I felt like this is a significant work. I didn't want it to just be like, God told me, and this is the guy. And I've seen that done, and I've seen it done where it works, and I've seen it more times where it didn't work.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I want to do as much due diligence as I can on this. And so I had been hearing a clear, small voice for a number of months about who the choice was. But it was the still, small voice, which sounds a lot like my own thoughts. And I would hear the Lord say, he'll do fine. He's the one. It'll be good. You know, but these are like still, small voice thoughts.
Yeah.
And I said, God, I want a clear word that's unmistakable. It doesn't sound like my own thoughts. It's shocking to me, surprising to me, because that way and that it's confirmed. Not just that it's shocking, because anyone could give you a shocking word and it might not be the word of the Lord. But so this happened on August 17th. My plan, my deadline, kind of my target was next June 2026. It was just when we started. We were saying, well, it was making our team sad when we were talking about leaving, you know, like they're getting tears in their eyes, and maybe that it was going to take so long. No, that we said it too short. And then I said, okay, how about one more year? Because I had no idea how much work we were going to do to get to it. And so, August 17th, this prophet from Brazil's in our church who knows nothing about the process, like nothing. He is not. It's his second time in our church, and he's world famous. His name is Rony Oliveira. You can find it on YouTube. Our first service on Sunday, August 17th, at the end of the service, he had a word, and he was wrestling with God over it. And he told me later, he said, I came last year because Edgar, who's our Spanish pastor, asked him to come to the conference, stay for Sunday morning. And he said, I came because when Edgar asked me, I got a word from the Lord. I recognized, bam, I'll come. And he could go anywhere. And this year, he said, when Edgar asked him, he said, I said yes because the Lord had been speaking to me about you, which kind of gets me scared, like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And he said, and he had a word, and the word that he delivered in the service when everybody's standing, he says, Pastor, the Lord says the cloud is moving. He was very nervous about this. And then he breaks every kind of prophetic protocol you would ever teach. And this guy, I would put this guy like in the category with like Reinhard Bonnke, or, I mean, he's a proven worldwide phenomenal prophet with a clean heart, very humble, great family. His testimonies would be another whole podcast to tell how he came to the Lord. Street kid, born a street kid from Brazil.
Yeah.
And
can we insert the boys? Can we put the video in of this moment?
Oh,
Can we pull it off your? Yeah?
Yeah, you could. It's with translation. You guys
Yeah.
can decide if you want it. But
we'll do a little couple of
August-
clips so people
yeah,
can see.
and our video team actually clipped it out. So
Okay.
now there's a 5-minute.
You're not going to get me a copyright strike if I
Nope.
put it on? Okay.
And but so he has this word, and he says the cloud is moving, and I thought, I know that, I'm like, okay, this is good, thank you, Lord, because I knew I could feel the cloud moving.
Yeah.
Like, okay, some days I just don't. I want to be moving, not staying.
Yeah.
And then he says, so come up here, and then he says, oh, and bring your jacket. Now, what I didn't know, he was wrestling with God. He said, God, if I'm supposed to give this word, because he says, have Charles wear a jacket to church on Sunday. It was a 90-degree day. It was kind of odd that I picked a jacket. Ann saw me with a jacket. She thought, okay. I had a short sleeve shirt, but maybe I didn't. It was a long sleeve shirt. But I had this jacket, and I wore it for the first part of the service. Then I took it off. And so he gets up to preach, and he saw me with the jacket on, and then he saw that I had it off, and it's sitting next to me on the chair. And he thought, uh-oh. So he says, bring your jacket. And I'm thinking, okay. And the guy, whose name is David, some people can guess his last name, but David was playing the keyboard while he was preaching. And then and so I get up on the stage with the jacket, and I'm thinking, what's going to go on? He says, now put it on his back.
Breaking every...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like...
Every rule.
And I thought, okay, God, this is a clear word. Like, I'm like laughing. I put it on David stands up, I put it on him. And then I said, David, this is Jehovah Sneaky. We are being ambushed by Jehovah Sneaky right now. Because I knew what I'd been praying. And then he called David's dad up, who was sitting in the front row, and we're both holding hands, and he has this whole word for David being in the middle and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. He's honoring David's dad. He had no idea that he was calling David's dad up.
Yeah.
He referred to him as the man with the white hair.
And just so for context, David's father
is been my right-hand man for 36 years,
did my marriage counseling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I was gone a lot, he ran everything.
Yeah.
And he really, he runs the
Incredible
operational stuff, and he and his wife are amazing
Gold.
pastors,
Gems.
lovers of people.
Love them.
And so he has this whole word, and it happened. And there's more to it than that, but it's just like, God, you brought me here with a word from California. You brought me into the future, what would become Life Center in the future, by a prophetic word that was fulfilled just by me showing up, and it was recognized. I stayed because you said, I've set you here, and I felt like I could never leave. And I never worried about anyone upsetting me, because I thought, well, if God set me, I can't leave till I'm unset, and so that was one of the things I was wrestling with in the whole transition thing. Is like, well, God, am I unset?
Yeah.
Am I leaving before I'm supposed to? Because some people will want you to be there till you die.
Yeah.
And so it all happened. The word of the Lord.
So
I'm good.
That's awesome. I love that. And congratulations, by the way. You get a, because you would call, we had more than one call. You would call me, hey, Will, what? And first of all, the fact that you would call me is just weird. Second of all, giving you any insight just felt wrong, which I didn't. I feel like I didn't give you much of any, but
you did.
But
you gave me insight.
What if I have this feeling that people are going to send this episode to their leader potentially. That might be a little bit long past that due date.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Don't send it to your leader. Let God speak to them.
So let me just say this, but
intercede.
Yeah, if you had 30 pastors in here, and they were like, oh well, Charles can do that because he has a big building and they have this team, and they have finance to bring in this outside in this process. What would you say to a pastor that has a church of 100 people, 50 people, and they might be scared?
Right.
Because you have a network of churches as well.
Yeah.
And they might be scared to let go. Their whole identity is in it. What would you say? What would you say to a room full of pastors right now?
Well, I guess I would just say to trust the Lord, that because I really think the size of ministries is an accident of the calling, the unique calling that God has for each person. You know, God doesn't want every church to be big. Big churches have a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. Little churches have a lot of problems.
Churches have problems.
Yes, but I think the pastor, just to hear from God and not be afraid, because the same God that brought you into ministry has a plan for you beyond that. And sometimes people are afraid financially, or
it's real.
They're afraid. These are real things. God is our provider, you know, and if the Lord is our shepherd, Yahweh is our shepherd, lack does not exist when we follow him. And it'll have to be supernatural, then it will be. Because I've been young, now I'm old, I've never seen his children begging bread. Like, we never made a decision based on finances. I mean, we made plans. When we were young, I built a house in California, which was a miracle, to build a house with no mortgage on it when we were getting paid nothing. Mm-hmm. And God made it. And our plan we thought, we'll build this house, and my heart was someday, it was like a second home area. It was a resort town, built it really cute. And someday we'll sell this and go to the mission field. And my thought of the mission field was probably like Fiji or something. Yeah. That was my perspective. And our mission field was Pennsylvania, because the day came we sold the house. Yeah. And it sold to the first person, first day, full price, cash. It was a fleece that Ann, and I asked her to pray, because I had been praying, and I said, God, somebody had sent a letter to Iverna Tompkins' ministry. Iverna lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. She had no idea who these people were. And this old latter rain lady wrote, Dear Sister Iverna, you don't know me, but I think you know someone who could be a pastor for us. And so she knew about our situation. In our pain, God sent us prophets. That's a whole different story. But one day, her secretary would call me every week and see if we were still alive. And and one week she said, she'd always say, did anything open up yet? No, nothing, because we were just crying out, God, take us someplace where we will get healed, where we won't split a church, where, all that might have happened if we had stayed too long. And I prayed, God, send him a nice pastor, because I just remembered, that little church in Penn, send him a nice pastor. That's a throwaway prayer. For months, I had been fasting, praying, weeping, spending hours weeping and praying in tongues, and I would hear the still small voice saying, I love you. It's going to be okay. It was all true, but it's like, God, what's next? Open a door. God, help. So I say, send him a nice pastor. I'm only saying it so I can tell the lady the next week, I prayed. 2 seconds, insincere, send him a nice pastor. And as soon as I said, send him a nice pastor, I clearly heard 4 words, 5, because one's a contraction. I am, it's you. And I almost thought, just kill me now, God. I don't think we're in any shape to go. I didn't know anybody in Pennsylvania. That's why I hadn't reached out to the group or anything. And so I asked Ann to pray, and she went out and she said, God, I'm in so much personal pain. wouldn't trust myself to hear you right now, because it was harder on her emotionally than on me. And so she came back with this fleece. She said, I just said, Lord, if you want our house to sell, let it sell first day, first person, full price, cash. And I thought, hallelujah, because I wanted out of the ministry.
Yeah.
And I thought, we're going to list our house for 24 hours. Nobody's going to, only one person has to see it. But in 24 hours, the fleece is invalid, and I'm going to quit, and I'm going to build houses, and I'm going to give money to pastors and missionaries and let them suffer.
I love it. I love it.
You know how you have these escape plans?
Yeah,
That was my
yeah.
escape plan from my pain. And God said, I am, it's you.
Wow.
So we listed our house. It happened, which was a miracle that it happened. And we didn't have a sign. We only listed it with one office. We didn't want multi-list because we didn't want people in the church to freak out. It was a test. And the guy bought it, had cash.
So
And 10 days later, we were in a U-Haul truck.
Wow.
We gave everything away we couldn't fit in a 24-foot truck. Maybe it was 26 feet. And we had our car. We gave away a car. We could only take one car with us. Our car was on a trailer. Only 3 could sit in the front seat. We made a little illegal prophets chamber in the back of the thing. And we had a bed and a walkie-talkie and a battery-powered lamp and a little potted tree in case, that was the latrine.
Yeah, let's go.
And I drove for 8 days across America, and Ann and the girls would take turns in the back.
So from I Am It's You up until today, you have a plethora of wisdom, experience with the Lord, highs and lows, leadership, everything between. If you're sitting talking to a room full of young people that want to give their life to service in the Lord, to serve the Lord, and I would say specifically in ministry, specifically the church, what would you say to them? And they're saying, Pastor Charles, we want your golden nuggets of wisdom. What would you tell them?
Okay. Well, you should do it. And if that's the longing of your heart, you should do it. But in order to survive, you cannot get offended at the people around you. You will die. And things will happen that will be painful. And each time you go through one of those tests and you're unoffended, you could be hurt, you can cry, you can weep, you could spend 6 months weeping and fasting and feeling like you're going to die. But if you'll follow the Lord and you'll stay in love, He will promote you each time closer and closer to why He redeemed you in the first place. And it might be different than your original dream, but the core of it will actually be the core of who you are. And He'll give you an abundant life that's overflowing. And so, I can tell all these pain stories when we were going to die, but I can also say that 90% of some percent, above 70% of my days are like, God, I can't imagine how I got to live this privileged life, to serve you, to help people all over the world, to be with Will today, to run into people and overflow Jesus. That's what you're called to.
Come on.
It's not, you're not called to fame. Some of you might become greatly famous for Jesus, but make Jesus famous. Any fame you get is just secondary to His glory. So that's what I'd say.
2 things. What would you tell them about finance, and what would you tell them about marriage?
Oh, okay. Jesus. Finance would be trust the Lord. Work hard, don't be stupid. But when He tells you, obey, give up everything, give away everything, if that's what He tells you. Don't do it to manipulate God, but do it if that's what he tells you. Whatever he tells you, do it, and he will always provide. Marriage, you should quit the ministry to keep your marriage. That would be my general advice. There may be exceptions in the whole wide world, so this is just a man speaking, but that's what I did, probably saved my marriage in California when I could see a trajectory that if I went along with my friends who were the leaders, and I was glad we were all kind of friends because we were all about the same age, I saw a flash forward potential ending of my life that I would lose my family, and then but I would hang around and get a job, and my calling would somehow open doors for me, and I'd end up preaching again, and I would get a new wife who was approved by the elders of the church. And I'm not trying to mock people. I know people who have been divorced and remarried, and God's using it, but you asked my advice.
I love it. I want your advice, Pastor
So
Charles.
my advice was, I stood up in an elders meeting, and we're all young elders, so we thought it was a big deal that we were the elders, and I said, I'm going to say some things here that are going to probably, I felt like I was slitting my throat in terms of my ability to stay in that ministry. And I talked about the elephant in the room, which everyone knew and no one ever talked about. And I came home and I told Ann, I said, Ann, I want you and the kids way more than I want ministry. And that was part of why I wanted out of the ministry. And so God had this whole better plan. And here we are all these years later. So that's what I'd say. Keep your marriage. If there's any way humanly possible, it's better than ministry. Yeah. It's not better than Jesus. It's better than ministry. So the other thing would be, don't make ministry an idol. Yeah. Make love your goal.
If you could go into your library and pick 2 books separate from the Word of God, for those that want to go into ministry in some capacity, what would those 2 books be?
Oh, Will, I don't know if I have it.
1 book, 2 books, 4 books, 8 books.
Okay, well, the books that really moved me.
Sure.
When I was a young Christian, I read Rees Howell's Intercessor.
Yep.
And I read, what's his name? He lived here in Franklin, Tennessee. He was a chaplain during the Civil War.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking
Bounds.
about. Yep.
So I was big into seeking the Lord, praying, and we would seek the Lord. This is in the 70s, before there were even answering machines, and we would get our kids in bed, unplug the phone, and spend time seeking the Lord together. And so to me, those are most amazing books. And I've read so many other books, but I just thought, well, we'll go back to some foundational. Those books motivated me.
Wow.
And one of my favorite movies, and this was The Jesus Revolution, which I think, it's the story of Greg Laurie, not Lonnie Frisbee. So Lonnie was our friend. He was our pastor when we were young Christians for 3
I just met the director.
Years. Oh, well, I thought it was an excellent movie, like a Norman Rockwell painting. It wasn't a documentary at all, but it gave the feeling of the cultural milieu of that day. It's like it was the culture that we got saved out of, and the culture that we got saved into, sort of. I mean, like we didn't get saved at Calvary Chapel, but we were saved because Jesus was real and the supernatural was permitted to express itself. And we were looking for it. Wow. I love the line where he's talking in the movie where he's talking to Chuck Smith, and he says, "Don't you see? They're looking for God."
Yeah. I actually have not seen the movie yet.
You haven't?
No, I need to.
Okay, well, you can see it now. And it might not connect with you. We wept.
Yeah.
We watched it at least 4 times, twice in a theater, and both times in the theater, all we did was weep all the way through. Because it was kind of
Yeah.
that story was the story of so many
Yeah.
in our generation who came to the Lord.
Come on.
So,
Charles, I know you have a meeting
yep,
that started already, probably. We're past 2.
we are. This is
I would sit here and pick your brain for hours and hours. I love you.
I love you too.
Moosey and I love you.
Yeah,
Heidi, I know Heidi and Roland love you.
they have marked our lives.
And
We love Heidi. We love Roland.
it's going to be weird going out to the church and not seeing you behind the pulpit.
Yeah. Well,
But I know you're still going
probably
to
still be there.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I know. I know that. However, the man that you have put in place is a friend, and I love him dearly, and
I know you do.
and his family dearly, as I do all of your team. They are some of the best in the world, and I'm so excited for what's next. And yeah, the impact that you have had on me and my family, I'm so grateful for. And I have a understanding of what the pastoral should look like because of watching you and Ann and John.
Yeah.
And Life Center is such an integral part of my history. I think my son got rocked there.
Yeah. We love Josiah.
Just everything. It's just, I'm so grateful for you. And thank you for coming on our little podcast and hanging out.
I'm honored.
I love it. And we got to have you back. Guys, Life Center, you stream your services.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You can go to YouTube, lifecenter.org,
Yep.
I think. No,
it's lcmi.org.
Yeah,
lcmi.org. You can, like on YouTube, you can type in Life Center Harrisburg, and it'll pop up.
Yeah.
And, yep,
But I love you, Charles.
it's mutual.
Yeah. Thank you.
Love you and Rusi.
Guys, don't send this to a pastor that you want to get booted out. No, but Charles, I could have sat here and talked about anything, but
Yeah.
I honestly, as I was just praying about today, I felt like there's so many people in the midst of transition, and there's people that are waiting, and all I heard was trust God. Just trust God, trust his process, stay in his presence, make him the main thing. And and I hope you guys were blessed. Listen, hit like, hit subscribe, and guys, we will see you on the next episode of the Iris Global Green Room. Thank you, Charles. I love you, sir.
Love you.
Yeah, come on.